Okay, so thank you everybody. Welcome for joining us today. Welcome to the Green Bet Africa webinar on reducing plastic litter and water pollution. Elizabeth Ademola from Loma, partner of the Green Bet Africa project, which is an Erasmus Plus project co-funded by the European Commission, will be our presenter today, the expert today. We are running this webinar to celebrate the European Green Week. Yesterday was the World Environment Day, so it's time for us to disseminate knowledge and environment sustainability concept and practices. Elizabeth, I stop talking and I leave the floor to you. Thank you very much.
Okay, so good morning. Good morning, everybody. Hello?
Good morning.
Good morning.
So you're welcome to this workshop and to commemorate the year 2024 World Environmental Day. And then, like Margarita had said, this, the European Union is also commemorating this day with this workshop to talk about a contemporary environmental issue that concerns everybody globally. We regard plastic pollution as a local problem, but with global impact. So it is it emanates from the local context, and then globally we all are feeling. Then globally we all are feeling the impact of climate pollution, and which is why it is very important for us to look deeply into what it is, and also the effect it has on the environment, the effect it has on the water body, and also how to prevent or how to curb this pollution through sustainable waste management practices. My name is Ademola Elizabeth, and I work with the Lagos Waste Management Authority, the Circular Economy Department, where we look at sustainable resource use, recycling, and then we look at issues to extend the life cycle of materials to ensure that the environment is used sustainably. Okay, so I'll start today. The topic before me today is plastic pollution and the impact on marine ecosystem. So we'll be looking at this together as I progress in this presentation. Okay, so briefly, I'll be guided by this outline. We'll look at introduction, and the introduction, we'll look at it in three parts. We look at the three contexts of, plastic, we look at the water, marine ecosystem, and we look at the interaction between these two, and why we are having this discussion. Okay, so we'll check some key terms in terms of plastic waste management, marine resources, and then we look at the causes, the effects of plastic litter and water pollution. We look at what is sustainable waste management. We also look at the principle that entrenched sustainable waste management. We check the approaches and necessary actions, which will lead us to the way forward. And then we'll quickly take at Lagos State as a case study. We want to see the impact, what if really there is the issue of plastic pollution in Lagos. And yes, if yes, how is Lagos, what effort is being put in place by the Lagos State government to tackle this issue? Okay. Okay, so by introduction, I'll look at, I say it is a well-known fact that Nearly 70% of the earth is filled with water. We have more water bodies than we have the land, the solid land. Then these water bodies are in different forms. We have them in oceans, we have them in lakes and rivers. And these water bodies, they are very essential to us as human beings. They provide a source of food, transportation, tourism. They serve as a source of waste for domestic use in rural. They are sources of water for domestic use in some rural areas, even in urban centers. They are very relevant in agriculture. So that resources, water is very essential for us as humans, even for the environment, in production, in manufacturing, in industrial processes. So, and also it has been reported about 250 million tons of trash, which is waste, ends up in the water body every year. Despite the importance and usefulness of these natural resources, you could see that from the picture, we'll see that a lot of debris being deposited along the waterways. So dumping sewage is considered the cheapest and easiest ways of disposing waste in some developing countries. We could also see that part of manned activities around this water body is the dumping of sewage. This is a practice that is common in some developing countries. And these all have impacts on the water, on the water quality. So I look at plastics. So I've tried to talk briefly about the water as a natural resources. What are plastics? We say plastics, they have been adopted as the first choice of packaging material due to its versatility, durability, and affordability. We say that now it is very easy. Most of the things we buy, we purchase now, they are made up of plastics. We have plastics in all forms. It is very affordable. It is cheap. It is easier to carry. And this makes it very comfortable. And then it is not permeable. For example, when you put your food inside the plastic, it contains it doesn't spill, it has cover. So it's very convenient to move around, and then it is durable. And now, because of these properties, and then because of the adoption, single-use plastics now account for about 40% of the plastic produced every year. What do I mean by single-use plastics? These are plastics that are designed to be used once. Examples are the plastic spoons or plastic that they give to us when we go to the eateries, when we go to eat or to buy food in eateries. We see that what they give us even in a restaurant, this plastic that we can use one and then dispose. When we have a lot of them in takeaway packs, and then look at the picture, you see that we have a lot of these bottles. These are PET bottles. They are designed for single use. Once the content has been used, they are meant to be discarded, because that is usually what they are designed for. Okay, but as we progress in this presentation, we are going to look at other things that we have been able to do with this plastics that are supposed to be used once. Then a lot of environmental, social, and health issues have been associated with improper plastic waste management. And then plastic has become now an additional strain of challenges confronting the world. It is no longer an issue for a particular climate or particular region. Plastic waste is now an issue that is of global concern. Okay, so I'll look at the interaction. The interaction, we say that careless human intervention, like I mentioned earlier, that a lot of practices, waste disposal practices on the coastal line. If we look at people dropping their sewage, their single-use plastic, a lot of careless human intervention and activities has hardly affected the ocean ecosystem. We could look at it from the picture. Just let's look at the picture. We could see that there is an organism, the first picture up there, that is being trapped in the single-use plastics. And the second picture, we could see that the animal is trying to, has picked up these plastics, and then usually they confuse some of them for food, and then it's either they are entangled in the plastic or they ingest them, they consume, they see them as food. And then the last picture shows that we have a lot of plastic pollution along the shorelines and the coastal environment. And this has a lot of far-reaching effects on marine ecosystem and then human health and the economy, such as wildlife entanglement and ingestion, like I've said, habitat degradation. This has degraded the habitat of these marine animals. Chemical contamination. A lot of those plastics may contain some element or chemicals which are not fit for that ecosystem. We have the economic impacts in the sense that it's impair or it's reduced the economic value for tourism. And then we have human health concern. A lot of plastics are now being found in human body, in the human system, the blood and even the placenta of women. Okay, so we have global transport of invasive species, and also
Give me reading class, please.
impairments on the aesthetic and the recreation impact of our water bodies. You can go to the next slide, please. So then I quickly move to the key terms, different key terms. Plastic waste. This refers to the significant amount of plastic that is not recycled and end up in the field. The single-use plastic are also one of these. So these are generally what we refer to as plastic waste. We know them, they are rigid, they are materials that we use on daily basis. And the mismanaged plastic waste will mostly originate from land. So most often we use them on land and then it finds its ways into the marine environment and therefore threatens biodiversity while also negatively affecting the blue economy. Okay, so another key terms we will look at is plastic pollution. Now we know what plastics is. These are material, rigid, impermeable materials that are used for, that are adopted as daily use, and then we use them in packaging, we use them as carrier bags and a lot. So when a lot of these are not managed properly, they become a nuisance, or they pollute our environments. And as such, it's one of the most pressing environmental issues now. As rapidly increasing production of disposable plastic products, it now overwhelms the ability to deal with them. They are produced in such an amount that it is so difficult now to deal with them. And one particular characteristic of this plastic is that it is slow to degrade. It takes over 400 years for a plastic to biodegrade. This means that it's outlived even the person that generated it. Most plastic will outlive you that generated them. So long after we are gone as human, we still have this plastic polluting our environment. So this is one of the implications. So currently, we simply cannot cope with the amount of plastic on our planet, nor the amount that continues to be produced. As I speak, a lot of plastic are still being produced globally. So, and then we still need to deal with the challenges of those ones that are still being produced. And then also the ones that have already been used and produced, we still do not have the capacity, or the world has not been able to deal with them. So this makes it a very important environmental concern. And then urgent action are needed to prevent this pollution in our environment. Another key terms you look at is the marine resources. Marine resources, these are found in ocean and they are useful for human. It can be referred to the life below water. In the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal, this is referred to as life below water. Marine resources are biological diversity, oil, sand, and coral reefs. If you look at the picture, the first picture is trying to depict a coral reef where we have these beautiful life forms below the water body. On the average, marine resources are classified into living resources and non-living resources. If you look at the second picture, we could see that fossil fuels are also extracted from the marine from the marine system. And then we have the plants. We have a lot of mineral deposits, sand that are mined from the marine from the ocean. And then we have the food, we have the animals. So we can classify our marine resources into the living component and the non-living component. Marine resources generally can be divided into three types of resources. We have the mineral resources, which are the minerals and the sand. And then we have the energy resources like the fossil fuels that is being extracted. And then we also have the food resources. Okay, so having spoken about that, the marine resources, we now look at marine pollution. We say this is introduction of substance. Pollution is the introduction of substance or energy from human into the marine environment. And this can result in deleterious effects and harm all the three resources. All the three marine resources can be harmed due to the impact of pollution in the marine ecosystem. Then over 80% of the ocean pollution, they are land-based. Like I said, most of this plastic are not produced in the ocean and they are not used in the ocean, but we found them a lot in the ocean, which means that they find their way upland into the ocean. So 80% of this pollution, they come from land-based activity, either from deliberate dumping or runoff from rivers and drains, including sewage, industrial and corporate activities, and agriculture are a major cause of this pollution. Let me talk about the agricultural part. You know, most of the time when fertilizers are used on the farm and then it rains, these fertilizers into the ocean or other water bodies, and then they contaminate the water bodies. All right. So what are the causes of marine pollution? I listed a few of them here, and I have a link here at that shows the various pollution. This for further reading. I am sure this presentation will make available to participants so that we can also check and then check the link and learn more even after this workshop. So littering with trash is one of them. We have land runoff, we have oil spills, we have direct dumping of waste material when we go for our recreation or when we have to walk or we come in contact with the water system. A lot of us just carelessly drop our waste in the water body. We have ocean mining, we have noise pollution, and we have ignorance and lack of adequate knowledge about the ocean, about the water bodies, and then also about the impact of what we do on the water bodies. So we have careless dropping of sewer and industrial waste. A lot of companies still discharge their waste directly into the water bodies. Then we lack of strict regulation and observation acts. In a lot of, let me say, mostly developing countries, we do not have strict regulations that prevent the contaminations of this water body. Then we have eutrophication, where we have too much concentration of nutrients on the water body. This can also lead to some form of pollution of this system. Okay, so now I go to the problem. But before I go to the problem, I would also like to hear from participants. So can someone please quickly tell us what they understand by single-use plastics? So do I have anybody that want to tell us? Let's get feedback from the from participants. What do you understand by the term single-use plastic? Before we go on, I'm waiting for a response. What do we understand by that term, single-use plastic? I can see a lot of us here. Please let us speak to this. What do we understand by single-use plastic? What are single-use plastic?
Hello.
Thank you, Mr. Sunday. You can go on.
My name is Regis Sunday. The single-use plastic, based on my understanding, are plastic that are used once and are thrown away. That are not recycled, or that cannot be used again for any purpose.
Okay, so Mr. Sunday, are there plastic that cannot be used, or they are designed to be used once? I think there is a difference between these two terms. So do you want to clarify that? Is it that they cannot be used again, or they are designed to be used once? Mr. Sunday, you still have the floor.
Yeah, they are designed to be used once.
Okay. Okay, so I'll add to that by saying that now, though they are designed to be used once, but we still have other uses for them. We could say that most of those plastics, some of us still reuse them, and then they also still go into recycling. Thank you. Thank you. I think proceed with that. Thank you for that contribution. All right, so let's go to the problem. Okay, but before that, Margarita, can you please help us play that video? Can you play the video on the link? Hello?
Elizabeth, I'm trying. Let me see if it's working.
Thank you.
The link from here, the previous slide, Elizabeth, sorry.
Okay, so we'll just leave it at a reference materials for participants to check. Maybe after the class and the presentation is shared, we can look at that. It's actually talked about the video is just to show us the problem, and especially in the Pacific region, where we have most plastic pollution of the ocean or of the water body. All right. So the problem, what we have here on this slide says, there is a research that says, if we continue the way we are doing, by 2050, there will be more plastic in the ocean than fishes. So I'm sure a lot of us will have seen this or know about this. So if we continue now without sustainable action to ensure that we reduce plastic pollution, by the year mentioned, we'll have more plastic ocean than fishes. All right, so that is the outcome of a research by some scientists. So I go into the problem now. So looking at this, the picture here, we'll see this is just trying to give us a rundown of the pollution of the water body. We'll see that according to World Atlas, 300 million tons of plastics get created yearly. So globally, we create an estimate of 300 million tons of plastics, and 50% of which are single-use plastic. So this is telling us that we have a lot. That means 150 million of this plastic being produced yearly are single-use plastics. And then, like I've said, this plastic takes like 500 to 1,000 years to degrade. What are the disposal for plastics? It's either they are recycled, they are incinerated, they are dumped at the dump sites. Then 70% of our debris sink into the ocean ecosystem. Out of these, 15% floats, 50% are also land on our beaches. So we are saying out of all the plastics or the waste that gets into the water body, 70% of them sinks into the bottom of the water body. 15% are floaters. We see them floating. And then the other 15% stay at the shorelines. Then the second line says that try to itemize the different types of trash items that we can find in the ocean. We have plastic fishing line, we have plastic fragments, we have glass beverage bottles, we have plastic beverage bottles, we have metal beverage cans, plastic food wrappers, plastic grocery bags, metal fishing strikes, glass ceramics, and also we have plastic cups and ceramics. So all of these are items that have been isolated and then identified as in the ocean or in the marine system. Then if you look at the last part, say 100 million marine animals, they die each year from plastic waste alone. So from plastic waste every year, 100 million marine animals, they die every year. So it shows that this is a serious issue that should be tackled. Also, there are 5.25 trillion pieces of plastics estimated to the ocean system. So these are all telling us what are these situations of plastics and the marine environment. 90% of worldwide ocean debris, they come from 10 rivers alone. Then the largest trash site on the planet is the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. That's the video we have in the previous slide. So I will implore us, once we get this presentation, to please check out this video. So this shows us the contamination. That's the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. It is twice the surface area of Texas. So it's a massive area of the marine system that has been encroached by plastics and other pollution. All right. So I continue with the problem. If dumping is done in areas that is close to where fishing is done. So I'm trying to, I want to understand the steps. I want to list these steps that leads to how this it impacts on the human system. So when we dump our waste close to where fishing is done, these substances will be consumed by fish and gradually it will accumulate in their bodies. So much of these aquatic organisms, sometimes they feel, like I said, these plastics as food and they ingest them. So the marine birds and mammals, they eat up plastic particles and resulting in biodiversity loss and contamination of the food chain. So when they ingest it, two things happens. If they ingest this small fragment, that can go into their body system and they can be stored in the system. And then if they ingest the one that cannot be digested, then it leads to loss of their life. So we have a lot of biodiversity loss. Biodiversity just means that there are different life forms that are lost in the process. So we lose a lot of fish species, and then some also, they keep them in their body tissues and organs. Then if for those that keep it in their tissues, there is something we call the food chain. Then this contamination, it goes up the trophic level. That is the food chain. This organism, they feed on smaller organisms in the ocean. And the plastic.
No, giusto per capire se io posso fare riferimento a voi, appunto nel caso.
Can you mute yourself, please? So they've ingested these plastics, and then man in the trophic level, we eat fish. So in the process of eating this fish, take up this pollutant as well. And this also, like I said, a lot of plastic has been found in human system. Even in placenta, children that are not yet born, we are seeing some fragments of plastics in the system. All right. So man eats this fish, they take up this plastic also in their own system. Upon consumption of fish by human, the toxic substances are introduced into the body of man, and thereby making the victim experience undesired health complications. And once this is being ingested by because it's not designed to be in our system, we have health implication as a result of ingesting these plastics from the fish that we consumed. So ultimately, consumption of poisoned seafood, such as clams, shrimps, and cuttlefish, they have been associated with paralysis, delirium, brain damage, birth defects, cancer, and a lot of others. So there are a lot of studies that have directly linked the consumption of these toxic substances into undesirable health effects in the human system. Okay, so part of the problem, the World Health Organization also has reported that more than 50,000 people have been affected by seafood poisoning. Coastline, especially indented ones, they create easy settlement for marine litters and makes it difficult to clean the shorelines based on the natural landscape of some water or some marine system. We have some indented ones, and then these plastic waste, they piled up there, and then they make it very difficult to even clean them up. Marine litter physically transport disease-causing pathogens and invasive species, which displaces indigenous benthic species. This is very relevant to the zoologists or people with marine that has marine biology. So this is just talking about some species of animals, because some species are not originally found in a location, but are being transported into that location, or they are being due to the impact of this pollution or the plastic that take them from their original position and move them to a position where they are not originally found. And as such, most of these species, sometimes they become pathogens, and then they take over those species and they displace the species. So that's why I said this will be most relevant to people that has some knowledge of zoology or the marine system. So shipping and other marine activities such as fishing and tourism are hampered. Like I said, nobody wants to go and relax in a beach or in a water that is polluted. So this will definitely affect tourism and also economic, that will have an economic impact in that system. Accumulation of floating litters, we call them floaters because they float, plastics majorly. From upland, they interfere with the luminosity of marine habitats, and then they deplete oxygen supply, thereby causing ecosystem imbalance. When we have a lot of them, they will contest with the natural habitats, with space and other resources, which can lead to what they can cause an imbalance in that system. All right. So based on all of this, I am sure that I've also mentioned some of the effects in trying to explain this pollution. So this from the picture, I'll just explain from the picture, we can see that this has affected the scenery of this ocean. The color there will be a lot of pollution. So some of the effects, like I've mentioned, we have the loss of biodiversity. And then we have the economic impacts will be reduced. There will be impairment in the economic impacts. And also we have definitely it kills recreational activities. Nobody can surf or fish or swim in this kind of water. Okay, so some of these things has been mentioned in the process of trying to explain this pollution. Then effect of polluted water body, destruction of the coral reef, marine ecological imbalance. I think I've been able to explain this. Loss of livelihood of the small fisheries and fishermen. So when the water is polluted, these peasant fishermen will not be able, they will lose their means of livelihood. Destruction of natural habitat of marine lives. A lot of marine life also lose their natural habitat. Loss of marine biodiversity. A lot of these species will die due to this pollution. They reduce the aesthetic and appearance of lines. So the aesthetics and visual appearance of our shorelines and water body will be impaired. Then it also reduces recreational, tourism, and economic benefits. So I would like to pause here and ask if there is any question or we have contribution from participants before I move to the next one, which is sustainable waste management as a tool. How can we use waste management to solve some of this problem? All right, so do we have comments? Do we have contributions? Do we have questions from participants before I proceed? Okay, I'm still waiting for our response.
Okay.
If we are, it's okay.
Okay. I don't know if I can just ask
you can, please.
Question.
You can, please.
Okay. Yeah, well, based on your presentation earlier, we talked about the lifespan of plastics, which is about 400 years plus and all of that. It gives me so much concern to see that, okay, our plastics that we dispose anyhow actually could spend more than 400 years. And apart from recycling, that I have seen as one of the measures put to manage a plastic waste, I still feel like, okay, there should be other stringent measures on how plastic can be disposed and can be managed. And one of the areas I think we really need to work on is perhaps the environmentalists will have to partners with the packaging industries to come up with something more reliable, something more efficient, something more sustainable to the environment. Because I can't imagine having a waste, that will stay for over 400 years. And like you said, over time, we'll have a lot of plastic waste, even more than the living things in the environment. So I don't know if there are measures, stringent measures, or other ways in which these plastic issues globally can actually be tackled. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that response. You are forward thinking. So we'll definitely get there. That's part of what this workshop.
And I want to also add, please.
Okay.
Now, in addition to that, I think the government should also be looking at coming up with other packages that are more recyclable and more environmental friendly, like maybe cartons and some other materials. Because as it is, with the rate at which we have so many of our products packaged in plastics, and the rate, look at how much of this is actually being recycled. The rest still find their way into water bodies and, being buried and stuff like that. So I think the government should, apart from looking at, okay, how do we recycle this product? How can we make them more useful? I think we should start looking at using it from the source and looking for other materials that we can use to package our juice, our water, instead of plastics.
Thank you, Ma. So I would like to take another comment. Do we have any other contribution or comment or questions from participants? Yes. Let's make it in chat. Thank you.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Ma, for the incisive presentation. God bless you, Ma. I think my name is Conrad Fridoku. I believe the government also have to bring a policy that will encourage circular economy more, because when we talk about plastic, it's a recyclable, but I will have the enable environment for the investors to come in, and how many of the plastic producers are being, do we know the annual turnover of their data, what they produce? So there must be a policy that will let us know the data producing and amen recovery, so that the government also should encourage the investor to come into the circular economy, that is the recycling sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Friday. So do we have other contribution?
Okay, good morning, ma'am. My own contribution will come from the area of awareness. Because you find out that a lot of people that make use of all this plastic don't even actually know the best way to dispose their plastic. There have been the awareness that from source, that is from households, you can sort your waste. But you find out that even till date, not up to 20% of households sort their waste right from source. And apart from households, what about schools? The number of children outnumber the number of adults that we have in Nigeria. And you find out that these children, even from schools, you have paper, you have nylon, you have plastic and all the rest of them, including bottles. And you find out that they actually don't have the knowledge of even how to sort their waste from source. So my own angle is more, what is the government doing about creating more awareness? It's not just going to the market. It's not just going to, even you see somebody that is well-read in a bus, after gulping a bottle of Coke, the next thing is he drops it on the road. The nylon and every other waste as such. So what is the government even doing in creating more awareness on this? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for those feedbacks. It shows that I have well-informed participants, and I give
I have a contribution.
A thumbs up for that. Okay, so who else wants to contribute?
Yeah, my name is Michael Odinota.
Okay.
So basically, what I would want to contribute is basically on those people that live in the coastal area. Like if you are going to the island, you see, when you're on Third Mainland Bridge, you see those people that live in those Ibutemeta and all those other places. You know, those people, I don't know if the government is putting, or if they are well informed about things like this, because sometimes most of them, they are not really well educated to know that these things are harmful to the water. And then so also, I don't know if they have a system whereby because sometimes when even when they defecate and stuff like that, they dump it into the water. So as for the mainland, at least people, they still have a system whereby every Thursday they do environmental and stuff like that, that still minimizes the amount of plastic that goes into the sea. But people who are in the coastal area like that, do they have a like maybe a policy, or if they have a pattern that takes care of the kind of debts that they dump around areas like that? Because since they're already close to the water bodies, and most of them don't have access to dump sites or stuff like that. So I think the government should look into that area, like people who are in those coastal areas, to see how well they can educate them and make provisions for them on how they dump their waste and stuff like that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have another contribution? Thank you. Point taking, awareness is key. And then also for people around coastal areas. So all of this we'll look at, we'll still get to the part where we look at the way forwards and things that we can do. All right, so this is so much appreciated. Do we still have participants that want to contribute or ask questions, or possibly also? Oh, okay, all right, so I think I can proceed with my presentation, and then all the questions are well noted. So we'll most likely get to a part where we'll look at them in details, and then we can also contribute. So I'll be taking our feedback, our contribution as I progress in the presentation, so that it's interactive, and then we can all drive in our points. This is like like I said when I started, is a global concern. So we want to get our feedback as well and our contribution and understanding on this topic of discourse. Thank you. So with that, I think I can go on with my presentation. So we want to look at sustainable waste management as a tool to control the littering of water bodies with plastics. And based from our contribution, I see that, yes, we are well informed about some of these things that we should do, and then we'll be looking at them in details. All right. So what is sustainable waste management? When we say waste management, these are activities and actions that are required to manage the waste, not after generation, even before generation. Waste management is now looking at what to do with the waste. Now we'll talk about designing waste out of even production system. Before you produce that material, you should look at the end, put the end in mind. We don't want you to give us products that will constitute a waste in the environment. So waste management is now looking at managing the waste even before production, even before distribution, before generation, and to the final stage, which is the safe disposal. Basically, that's what waste management is, how to effectively manage the waste to ensure that it does not constitute nuisance or in the environment. Well, we now have the sustainable part. So sustainable waste management is a comprehensive approach. That aims to reduce environmental impacts by implementing sustainable solutions. Like we have talked about alternative options. Can we not have this? Can we not have that? So sustainable waste management puts all of this into perspective. Solution throughout the life cycle of the waste. What are sustainable options? What are the good options that can be taken as opposed to business as usual? We can say waste management is business as usual, but sustainable waste management is now looking at what to do to sustainably provide solution to waste management throughout the life cycle of that waste. And this include managing all sorts of waste materials in an environmentally responsible ways. It's reduced, like I said, it includes reducing waste from production, reusing materials whenever possible, and recycling to conserve the resources. So by adopting this, I think now I have the three R's: reuse, reduce, reuse, and recycle. We will extend the life cycle of materials in the environment and reduce the dependency on natural resources, or the way at which we produce and then consume energy, and also causes a lot of environmental effects. Okay, some of the terms aside from sustainable waste management, some of the terms in sustainable waste management is waste management. I've tried to explain what waste management is, and also the three R's. The three R's means reduce, reuse, recycle. Reduce the amount of waste generated. Reuse the ones you can reuse as much as possible. Don't say because it's single-use plastic, immediately you finish using it, you discard it. You can still have other uses for them. And then as much as possible, take them for recycling. Okay? So some of the terms is, we also have waste management hierarchy. What do I mean by the waste management hierarchy? This is a framework for, please go to the next slide. Next slide, please. Okay. So aside from waste management and the three R's, some of the terms in sustainable waste management is the waste management hierarchy. This is a very important tool for environmentalists, especially those in the waste management sector. This is a framework that established for establishing the order of preference for different waste management options. We've talked about reduce, reuse, recycling, and then there are other things that can be done. If we take a good look at this picture, the picture of the waste management hierarchy, the arrow is going from the least favored option to the most favored option. What is the least favored option that we have is disposal. Take, use, and dispose. We call it the linear economy. When you take a product, you use the product and you dispose the product. We are now saying that that is the least favored option Then let me start from what is most preferable. It wants you to prevent the amount of waste, to prevent waste generation. If it is very possible to prevent the generation of waste, then yes, this is what is the most favored option for us. Before you generate the waste, before you buy, you ask yourself, is it necessary? How much of it is required? So that we consciously prevent the generation of this waste. If we cannot completely prevent the generation of waste, can we please minimize? Can we look at minimizing the amount that will be generated? Yes, I cannot absolutely prevent waste. I must at some point generate waste, but at that point, can I reduce or minimize the volume that will be generated? Oh, yes, I cannot reduce everything, but then the ones that you are able to, the ones you have generated, you have consciously generated, can you reuse part of it? For example, we have this reusable bag, these bags they give us when we go for shoppings. And then every time we go, we collect the bags. Part of what we can do with reuse is we consciously decide or we make a deliberate effort to go the next time with our shopping bags so that we don't have to collect these bags. So this is what we mean by minimizing or reusing. Can you reuse them? There's some of the single-use plastics. If they are plates, can you use them for storage, for food storage, instead of going to buy containers to store? Can you use some of them to store some of those your food items so that also reduce the amounts that you need to take back or that we need to manage as waste? Also, if you have reused them, can you also consider the option of recycling? The ones that you can no longer reuse, instead of discarding them, can you take them to facilities where they will be recycled? And then also, if they cannot be recycled, this now goes to the private sector and the government. Can we look at recovering energy from this waste material? There's a term we call waste to energy in waste management. So this, instead of just burying them, why not come up with a facility or develop a waste to energy facility that will also help us to get some energy from this waste instead of just burying them in the landfill? Then after we've exploit all of this option, then we can now look at disposal. If you cannot prevent, you cannot minimize, you cannot reuse, you cannot recycle, and you cannot recover, then you can now think of disposal. But what we have mostly is take, use, and dispose. And this is why we say that sustainable waste management looked at issues like circular house and other waste. Okay, so sustainability, I think I've been able to touch on sustainability. Okay, so I'll just say that sustainability looks at the interaction between the environment, man, and the economy. As a man, you want to do your business in the environment, and also you have to give consideration to the impact of your activities on the environment so that you minimize the impact of your activities on the environment. So it hinges on three main components: people, the planet, and the economy. Okay, so we look at circular economy. I've tried to explain the linear model like as the model that take, use, and dispose. But when we talk about circular economy is a process that puts all of these other options of recycling, of product modification to reduce waste, in consideration so that we have minimal waste, so that the waste continue to be in a circle. We do not have a waste. A waste to a process becomes the material input for another process. So the circular system aims to design out waste. Basically, it shifts the paradigm from the make, use, and dispose model to a reuse, recycle, reuse, recycle, reuse, recycle, reuse, recycle as much as possible model. And then it also take into consideration the design, the model, the designing of these products. Designing out waste, like I've explained, that you can design waste out of the production process. That is putting the end in mind even before you produce the materials. Okay, so I'll quickly look at the next slide, please. Some of the principles or policies that we entrench sustainable waste management. We have the EPR, Extended Producer Responsibility. We have, this is where producers are meant to commit to be committed to the impact of their activities on the environment, and then they have to provide a means to reduce this impact. We have the zero waste, like I said, is it possible for us to prevent waste generation? Pollution prevention pays principle. When you pollute, you pay for the cleanup of your pollution in the environment. We also have the polluter pays principle. All these are, so they are just itemized for us to see, but their terms are really, they are big. I'll just mention them for the purpose of our time. And then I will encourage us, after we get this slide, to look at this, to also look at this, to look at them so we can have better understanding of all of these principles. We have the polluter pays principles, we have the user pays principle, we have the principle of intergenerational equity, and then we have the integrated. These are all terms, these are all principles, these are all terms in sustainable waste management. All right, so I now go to the approach. What do we need to do? What are the approach? Some of us have mentioned some of these things, but we need to also look at them. Look at these different approaches. Okay, all right, so the United Nations, I'll start by saying that the United Nations, in its effort to address the human impact on the marine environment, they included goal 6, which is clean water and sanitation, and 14, like I mentioned, is life below water. Life below water. In its blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for us. So for those of us that are not familiar with this, this is the chart. This chart here is the Sustainable Development Goal chart, and it itemizes all these sustainable development goals. These are things that we can look at. These are supposed to be mainstreamed in our actions. We are supposed to consider them in our interaction with the environment. Okay, so reducing plastic production and waste is one of the most important ways to stop this pollution. One of us actually said that we should look for a way to reduce the production of this plastic, and then look for alternative, sustainable alternatives. We say that plastics are non-biodegradable. Let me try to explain the time. That means it does not break down. So can we look for options that will be biodegradable, that will not persist in the environment for 400 years and become a concern for all of us? Okay, so on an individual level, we can start by avoiding products that contain microbeads or plastic chopping bags. Like I said, these are some of the things that we can also do. Aside from the government putting in policies, aside from an industry designing waste out of their product, we can also make some conscious and deliberate efforts to change our ways and then reduce our plastic consumption or plastic usage. We can decide to use reusable plastic bags instead of single use every time going to the market to get more of these bags. Individual effort, however, we know that individual efforts are not enough to solve this problem. So tackling this issue will require a collective effort from the government to industry, to the NGOs, and to the individual. Okay, so I believe we have talked about some of the approach. Like I said, someone talked about awareness raising, reducing plastic consumption, raising awareness about plastic recycling. There are a lot of people do not even know the impact of their activities on the environment and the marine system. Okay, there is need for improved waste management system and recycling, so we have mentioned that. Then there should be better product design that takes into account the short life of disposable packaging. We don't want packaging that will be in our environment even after we've gone. We want packaging that will degrade in the environment. We also want to reduce the manufacturing of unnecessary single-use plastic. And we are also collaboration. Only the government alone cannot do this. Individual alone cannot do this. The NGOs alone cannot do it. Development partners like European Union alone cannot do it. All of us need to come together to ensure that we do the right thing. Okay, so now I go to the government. What are the actions from the government that we think the government should look at? From our contribution, a lot of us has mentioned a lot of things that we think the government should do. But based on this slide, I said identification of upland point and non-point sources of litter. Like we said that majority, most of the pollutants in the marine ecosystem, they come from the upland, from the land. So what we can do, first of all, is to identify these points and other non-point sources, and then try to erect a barricade, establish infrastructure for stormwater management to prevent them from entering the marine environment. So this is a responsibility that should be looked at the government level. So look at this, the different sources, and see how you can put in infrastructure for effective collection of this waste before they get into the water body. Then establish a system to monitor the collection and recycling of plastic bottles, containers, and gas and cans on passenger ships and related harbors. We have a lot of people that work on shore, they work on water, and those people, are there waste management plans for them? Are there infrastructure, or is there any policy guiding waste management, or guiding the management of waste they generate? They just generate the waste and then dump them in the water body. So we are saying that there should be a plan, there should be a policy that looks in that direction and ensures that all waste generation offshore are well bagged, well containerized, and then taken to the right place for disposal. We look at inclusion of marine litter management in the waste management plan. Do we have marine litter management? So the government, these are some of the things that the government should look into working out to prevent the pollution of the marine system. Provision of adequate infrastructure for the efficient collection and management of waste in coastal and urban communities. You know, someone had said that we should look at those people that live very close to the shorelines, to the water bodies. Yes, we are saying that there should adequate infrastructure should be provided for efficient waste management and waste collection, so they don't end up dumping their waste in the water body. Then we should deploy integrated waste management system for port, coastal, offshore, and offshore activities that I have explained. Reinventing packaging to reduce the amount of material being used and making their packaging fully recyclable. So what we are saying is there should be a policy that looks into so if we are going to design them, like one of the contributions we get, let us look at the options that are recyclable or recyclable options. We don't want them to persist. We want to try to change to more recyclable options. Then we should know definitely it's the only thing that can drive this change. It has a huge role to play in accelerating a circular economy and extended producer responsibility. The idea of requiring companies to manage end-of-life processing for the products that they make. So all of this is saying that we can use policy to try to get the desired change that we want. So when we're talking about plastic pollution and marine, plastic litter and marine pollution, the government has huge role to play in terms of refining its policy to capture all the points of generation, to capture from generation to even the migration, and then to the marine system. So these are some of the things that the government should look at to ensure that we reduce some of this pollution in our ecosystem. And also as people, what are the things we can do to reduce our plastic waste? This is gotten from the NPS platform, and then they gave us 10 useful tips to reduce our plastic waste. One is refuse plastic straw. Can we intentionally refuse plastics when we are given the plastic? Then shop at local farmers markets where they will not give so much packaging. Can we buy in bulk so that we reduce the amount of packaging that we get? Also, use reusable water cups and bottles. Instead of taking single-use cups, can we go about with our bottles? Can we use cups that are reusable and then are not designed to be used just once? Refuse plastic cutleries that, like I said, use reusable shopping bags, avoid excessive food packaging, use reusable household items. So let's just not blame the government for everything. We can also decide to change our lifestyle to save the health. Use bar soaps and shampoo as opposed to the ones that are in the plastic containers. Then upcycle. Upcycle means that you can convert some of those products to other meaningful products, even from your home. You can decide to convert that container to something that will also help for storing other products in the home. Use handkerchief instead of tissue. All of these are efforts that you can see in the link provided below. So once for further reading, we can check the link below, and then all these points are clearly stated there. Okay, so before I go to the case study of Lagos, I would like to also ask participants to contribute at this point. Do we have contributions so far? Do we have other things we think the government should do that has not been captured? Or do we have other comments for us before I go to the case study of Lagos, Nigeria? So the floor is open to participants. Please, let's make it interactive. Any comments? Any policy direction you think the government should look at? What other things do you think can be done at individual level or in partnership? Okay, thank you.
On the reuse, because
Okay.
I'm a bit worried on that particular aspect. Because basically in the Nigeria of today, most of the products that we have, even the so-called plastic material products, most of them are not reusable. So that is why I'm kind of a bit skeptical in the area of reuse, because you find out that because of the present economic situation of Nigeria, most of the products comes forth after making use of them once. You can't even make use of them the second time, not to talk of the third time.
Okay, thank you for that, Ma. But I think out of the 10 points, reuse is just one of them. And then some items are still, I understand the point you're coming from, that we have a lot of them, the quality has been reduced even from production. So, but then we still have others that we can, that can be reused. So one of what we can do out of the 10 is to try to reuse the ones that we can reuse, and then avoid the one we can avoid. If reuse is going to be a bit difficult, then we can try to avoid, like for example, I go about with my bottle now. I put my water in my bottle and try to get this dispenser in my office to get bottle. So what I've been able to do is to reduce my consumption of waters in bottles. So these are some of the things we can also look at. We use as an option, and then we have several other options. If we cannot completely reuse, then we can look at, okay, prevention, we can use our recycling. Even those items that cannot be reused, we can separate them and then deliver them up for recycling. So those materials can also, so it's an option. That's why we have different options and different things that can be done. In case one does not, we cannot use all of them, it's advisable we consider whole, but if in case we all cannot be considered, then we can look at the one that works for us and try to be better with each day. So I know it's a collective work, but I know that, yes, it's something that can be achieved if we all do our bits. Okay, so do we have any other contribution? Or we should just go to Lagos? Is it clear? Any other contribution for participants? Okay, so we quickly look at the case study of Lagos, Nigeria, in terms of marine plastic pollution and the efforts that the government has tried to put in place for the management of plastics in Lagos State. All right, so this is Lagos at a glance. It has a size area of 3,577 square kilometers. That is a geographical location. It has a population of about 26 million people, according to the Office of the Central Statistics. And then it's divided into 5 regions for administrative purposes. We have Ikeja, Badagry, Ikorodu, Lagos, and Ekpe. This is the geography is an highland, it's lagoons, creeks, stream, south floodplains, and a lot of alluvial deposits. So status and people is a mega city. It's a cosmopolitan administrators of different nationals and international natives. So it's saying that we have a lot of people that are not even nationals of Nigeria also here in Lagos. And then we have even for people from different cities and towns in Nigeria, all in Lagos. So it's a cosmopolitan city. Okay, so what are the scenarios in Lagos? Its Lagos coastline is approximately 180 kilometers in length. So it has a massive coastline area and is characterized by predominantly flat terrain. The terrain of Lagos from that is flat. And the elevation of this coastline is averagely less than 1.5 millimeters above the sea level. So this is just trying to tell us that Lagos is a low-lying state. So, and then surrounded with a lot of water, which make us very, very susceptible to this marine pollution. Okay, Lagos metropolis attracts thousands of individuals yearly from other parts of Nigeria and the world seeking greener pasture. Hence, the state is characterized by a high population density. Then a significant number of land reclamation activity for settlement has taken place over the years, and they are still taking place. What are we saying? If we look at the terrain now, and then we see that it's surrounded with water and it's a low-lying state. And then because of the influx of a lot of people, there is need to expand settlement. So a lot of reclamation of those water bodies has been done to create settlement for people. And then a lot are still going to take place in Lagos. I hope that is striking something in our mind. Okay, so the built-up area were mostly former wetland formed through land reclamation, according to Obi Efuna et al. In 2013, stating that most of this land we are beating now, they are wetland that are reclaimed for settlement. Okay, all right, overview of Lagos State. Waste generation in Lagos is about 13,000 metric tons daily. About 13,000 metric tons of waste is generated daily in Lagos on a per capita of 0.65 kg per person per day. This means that one person will generate an average of 0.65 kg of waste in a day based on a waste waste per capita study carried out in Lagos State. Of course, what are the sources of this waste? We have different sources from the waste from household, markets, industries, we know them. What do we use for collection? There we have compactor trucks, we have dino bins, we have mammoth truck, there are transfer trailers, there are skip trucks, there are stationary compactors, we have litter bins and refuse bins all around, from household to public places. So those are the facilities in place to ensure that the waste are being evacuated in Lagos State. And where do they go to? These waste go to the dump sites. They go to the transfer stations. Transfer stations are just intermediary points where these trucks, they offload and then they reload them into a bigger truck. So instead of us having like 6, 7 trucks going to the dump sites, they will offload and only just one truck will move the waste from there. All right. So these waste, they go to, these are where the waste in Lagos, these are where they go to the landfill and to the transfer stations. All right. So this is just a slide. This is just showing us some of these things that I've just said. The average waste generation is 13,000 tons per day. The waste, we have a waste management plan in progress, and the per capita waste generation in Lagos is 0.65 kg per person per day. And then these are all the, Lagos is looking at transitioning to a circular economy. Okay, so what are the scenarios in Lagos? At present, waste management has become an additional strain to the challenges confronting Lagos due to the indiscriminate dumping by residents on land in water bodies or drainage channels and stormwater paths. So for those of us that reside in Lagos, we will be familiar with this point that yes, a lot of indiscriminate dumping. In one of our contributions, someone said even the learned, they gob their water and throw the trash out from the car. So these are the prevalent situations, some of the prevalent situations in Lagos. So we still have a lot of indiscriminate dumping on land, in water body, even building, erecting of structures, or reclaiming of land with waste on water body for settlement. All of these are some of the things that has been done, are still being done by people in Lagos. Okay, and this has led most of the time to clogging of the drains and waterways whenever it rains, because we have a lot of this trash, a lot of this waste in the environment. When it rains, it moves them, the rains move them to the drains, and then we have a flooding of those drains. That is most areas are very prone to flooding based on improper waste disposal in Lagos. Subsequently, the states now encounter incessant flooding whenever there is heavy downpour of rain. Now, this causes reduction in economic activities, loss of personal and public properties, loss of livelihoods, amongst others. So this is just trying to say that, yes, in Lagos, we still have indiscriminate dumping, and then this has predisposed us to flooding whenever it rains, because water, the water, storm water moves this waste to the drains, or they block the main water channels and impede the free flow of water. So also in Lagos, we have a body that is responsible for managing the waste, solid waste generated, and this is the Lagos Waste Management Authority. It's responsible for waste management in Lagos State, from collection to transportation to treatment and disposal, and also for regulatory of waste management activities, recycling, and monitoring and then enforcement of waste-related activities in Lagos State. Okay, so what are some of the efforts that are being put in place by the Lagos State government due to, number one, the condition of the geographical condition of the states that predisposes it to flooding, and also due to the discriminate also that is a factor that and the flooding issue that we have in Lagos. So some of what are the things that have been put in place? What are the efforts that have been put in place by the government to reduce the impact or to prevent all of this from happening, effect of improper disposal in the state? One of it is the establishment of the marine waste unit. So we have a dedicated unit team that we call the marine waste team. And then what they do on daily basis is to go to the marine system, water bodies, and to ensure that they evacuate the waste that are being deposited there. We see from this picture, we can see them in operation. So these are we have a team because of the vulnerability of the state. There is a need for prompt intervention to ensure that these are cleared on daily basis. Then advocacy and sensitization, someone talked about awareness. Yes, what the state is also doing is trying to advocate, to sensitize even from primary school. Now we have an academy that goes from primary school to secondary and tertiary institutions to spread the message of effective waste management, telling the people what to do, and then also on recycling, awareness on recycling and on proper waste management. We have a lot of CSRs on cleanups and sensitization. So we have partnered, Lagos State is partnering with a lot of companies, non-governmental organizations, and a lot of development partners to do their corporate social responsibility on cleanups in different locations across the state. Okay, so there are also sanctions and incentives. Recently, the Lagos State declared a ban on single-use plastics and on styrofoams and other single-use plastics, because we realize in Lagos that most of the waste we see on the water bodies, even on drains and on our drainage channels, are majorly styrofoams and then PET bottles. These are the pure the water bottle. Okay. So there are a lot of digital solutions to promote recycling from source. We realize that, yes, it may not be easy for people to access these recycling components. So what the state has also done is to develop an app that it works like an Uber that helps with waste collection of recyclable even from the homes. So they have looked at digital solution to address this waste from the point of generation. Also, we have a lot of buyback programs where you bring your waste and then you exchange it for cash or gifts. And then integration of informal waste workers. The informal waste workers, they are the people that help with resource recovery. Now we have even, the name was recently changed to urban miners, because yes, they are miners, but they are mining in the city center, in the urban centers. They are the ones that are helping with resource recovery. They collect some of this material from every aspect, from every area. They collect from household, they collect from the drains, they collect from anywhere they see them. So we are integrating them into the system to improve their condition of work. Also, the state government is looking at introduction of separate bins for collection of recyclables. So now we are promoting the adoption of 2 bins, the blue bins for recyclable and the green bins for general waste. Also, coordination of recycling association, and yes, the government is looking at coordinating them to monitor their activity and ensure that, yes, they are doing what they should do, what they should be doing. Also, we have the establishment of recycling hubs. Recycling hubs, these are points in the state where recycling activity takes place, where people can exchange their waste for prices or for money, and then where those waste can also be taken directly to companies where they will be recycled or turned into other products. Then they are also looking at incorporation of material recovery facilities, the waste that are commingled at home that are not delivered for recycling. There's a facility where the plastics will be removed from the waste stream and then will be taken for recycling. Like I mentioned, they also put in place the school advocacy program, which is a program that goes to the different schools in the state to create awareness. Yes, Mrs. Esther said that we have more students than even adults. So we want to catch them young and then make sure that they do the right thing growing up. Okay, so the plastic waste management strategy, the ambition is to reduce the menace of plastic pollution and divert plastic waste for recycling in the state. And the main aspect or mandate is to ensure that plastic are recovered and effectively converted. And what are the main barriers for implementation? We have plastic policy is yet to be ratified. There is a national plastic policy that is in progress. So we are waiting for the ratification of the policy so that everything stated therein can be enforced to achieve the ambition and the mandate. All right. So what are the next steps for Lagos in terms of this plastic? Is a ratification of plastic waste policy. There should be a policy, like we said, policy would definitely help to drive the change. Then also, Mr. Friday talked about an enabling environment for investment. Yes, the government should also look at creating an enabling environment for people to invest in recycling on plastic conversion. This is also very important. Continuous awareness and sensitization is very key. A lot of people are not aware, and the students should be carried along also in whatever it is that is being done. Continuous engagement with stakeholders across the plastic value chain. There is a value chain. We have the generators like you and I. We have the collectors like the informal sectors. These are the people that collect the waste. We have the aggregators. These are the ones that aggregate the waste in volume. Then it goes to the pre-processors. These are the ones that clean, they crush, or they shred this waste. Then it goes to the processors that now convert this waste into other meaningful products. So there should be continuous engagement and support for stakeholders across the various value chain in Lagos State. So I've explained the marine waste units. What they do is to ensure that, yes, they clear the marine ecosystem of any kind of waste and ensure the free flow of water within the metropolis. All right, so also we have collection of recyclable from estates. You can see this bike. So this is a bike that has been converted for collection of recyclable. So this is one of our partners. They go around the estates to collect plastics from households to target them from point of generation so they don't find their way into the environment and into the marine system. Okay. We also have the school advocacy program and on recycling, where they talk to students. We can see the picture where the official is holding a plastic bottle. So we go to the school, we talk to them about plastic, how to manage it, what they can do with it, and then how they can even get economic benefits from plastic as opposed to just disposing this plastic. Then we have, if you live in Lagos, or if you've been to Lagos, you will have seen this recyclable bins at different locations. So this is intentionally made in the shape of a bottle to pass the message that, yes, the bottles should go inside the bins. So these are placed strategically in different places, markets, malls, schools, estates, organized estates, to collect plastic waste for disposal so they don't find their way into in unauthorized place. Okay, so these are some of the efforts that are in place by the government to ensure that waste plastics are targeted from the point where they are generated and to prevent plastic pollution and subsequent migration into the ecosystem, and also to prevent all parts of this on the environment. So in conclusion, I'll say addressing marine plastic pollution requires coordinated efforts at local, national, and international level, including measures to reduce plastic production and consumption. It is very important that we look at it from production. Because if we can target and then ensure that the production, the waste are designed out for production, or there is production of alternative, we can produce alternative to non-biodegradable plastics, then we can be sure that what gets into the system will be controlled or minimized. Then we should also look at consumption, that is at individual level. At individual level, in consuming, in purchasing, what can we do to also reduce the impact of our plastic consumption, to reduce the impact, the adverse impact on our dear environment. Also improve waste management infrastructure. There is need to put a lot of infrastructure in place for recovery, for collection, for conversion of this waste to prevent their menace in the environment. Also promoting recycling and circular economy. We've talked about circular economy. This should be promoted to capture the ones that are already in the system. Like we said, we have a lot is still currently in the system. So we need to look for a way to mop up what is in the system, and then also to target to ensure that we reduce the one that is being produced, so that we can have some respite from this plastic menace. Okay, and also most importantly, raising public awareness about the importance of plastic pollution prevention to the blue economy, to the life below water, and to also to reduce the loss of biodiversity in the marine ecosystem. Okay, so before I'll now leave the floor open for contribution, for question, and then for our comments. So the floor is open again for contribution.
Thank you, ma. God
Thank you,
bless
sir.
you, ma. Yes, ma. I always like to be under your lecture, because you always give us what we want and what we need. My own is on contribution toward the hubs that you mentioned in every local government and LCD. I think as Lagos is, as you said before, the landmark is very short. It's a coastal area, and there's no land to build and hubs in all those. I will only advise or suggest that we should also make a plan, a policy that every new estate that is coming up should have a hub in that estate, so that the collection system will be more easier for the collectors. Also, on a public school that have a land, at least the government can also talk to their school authority. I know they are under Ministry of Education, not Environment, how they can at least carve out a portion so that they can use it as a collection hubs or facilities. So that's my own advice on that. And also, you are talking about integration and all those things. Yes, Lagos is really doing a lot on that. And I believe by the time the system will come to a force, I think we will reduce or minimize some of the waste collection. That's recycle. The circular economy will be sustainable through that level. And also, I will talk about the marine sector. I don't know the unit, the way they are working also, because not only removing those things, evacuation is important also, quick evacuation, because when you remove it from the seesaw and you leave it without evacuating it, if any rain come up now, it will also return back. So we need to work on that. Also, in the Ministry of Environment, they have what they call, I think, drain dogs. We should try and educate them. You cannot go to drainage and remove the sand or all those things, and you leave it there. We need to evacuate it on time. If possible, we can bring in the informal sector to also be part of that unit or department. I think that would be more easier and affordable. Thank you, man. God bless you.
Thank you for your contribution, Mr. Friday. Mr. Friday is the chairman of the urban miners that I mentioned earlier. So it's well aware of the situation. Thank you for those contributions. And I will say that, yes, the marine, there is an effective collaboration now between the marine waste management and the drainage services. In the Ministry of Environment, there's what they call the Office of the Drainage Services. They are also involved in clearing of drains within the cities. So like you have mentioned, there is effective collaboration to ensure that once the drains are cleared, they are evacuated immediately. Thank you very much for your contribution. So can we also take more contribution from participants?
Okay, my own
My name is
contribution.
And the other thing I want to add to, thank you so much for the presentation. It's quite nice listening to everything that you have said. It's very explanatory, and we have also learned a lot from the presentation. I want to add that as we are looking at coming up with hubs all over the local government for the collection of plastic waste, I think the government should also look at, apart from private sector, of ensuring that those plastics are picked up as often as is necessary. Because most of the time when people aggregate and nobody's coming to pick up, it kind of discourage them. And then our efforts at maybe enlightening people and encouraging them to keep plastic waste will have been defeated. So that area, because the transportation part of it is very important. I'm sure if it's evacuated as often as is needed, then it makes it easier and it encourages people to pick more. And then whoever those that are also in the need of that plastic can also get their materials on time. So I think there should also be a synergy, synergy with recyclers around the local governments, organize it in a way that people can, have access to them and call them, okay, we have enough plastics, and then they pick up as fast as they could to encourage people to do more. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that contribution. So I believe that this is a take home, and then we'll take this home, we'll work on how to be more effective in collection of recyclable from households, and also to synergize better with local government and recyclers for effective collection of plastics from individuals and households. So thank you. This will be noted and then implemented. Thank you. So do you have other comments? You want to speak to the
My name is Esther.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the area of coordination of waste organization. In Lagos State, so far so good. I know that that has been something that a lot of bodies and organizations have been doing. But I just want to come from the aspect of where the last speaker stopped on the collection. We find out that in some of the areas in Lagos State, even Loma cannot access those areas. And that brings about the issue of raising the embargo on the waste pickers, mobile waste pickers that we have in some of our associations. For example, in Aswo, you find out that there has been an embargo on the mobile waste pickers that goes from house to house to pick some of this waste. So I'm using this medium to also speak to the government that if these embargo could just be removed, because basically I can tell you about 2 or 3 areas that I'm very familiar with in Lagos State under Ifakojai local government where I reside that Loma cannot access and have not been accessing. For example, Idiagbon, very close to Ifakojai local government. We have water erosion issue in this area. And they dump their refuse in a very deep canal that is down the area. And this canal leads to another canal that goes all the way to under Obawale Bridge, that moves from Obawale to Okera, from Okera to Bega. So why I'm bringing this forth is just to make the government realize that as much as the government is trying, there are so many areas that Loma, especially PSP, cannot access.
Okay, so noted, but I'm aware that there is a collaboration, or there is a discussion around that, and then the urban miners, the association, are working closely with the recycling unit of Loma. So I would just appeal that the issues be resolved with the recycling unit of Loma, and I'm sure they are working together on that. So I may not be able to speak to your request at the moment on the releasing of some of your mobile speakers, but I'm sure that there's a system that is addressing that with the organization or the association. Thank you. Okay, so we leave room for other comments and contribution.
Okay.
Thank you.
My name is Lady Sunday. Thank you very much. It's always interesting going through presentations like this through you. My contribution is to actually look at how much accountability does the government have with the manufacturing industries. That's the companies that actually manufacture these plastics that are littered everywhere in the environment. For me, I feel this is where the problem lies. They produce these plastics, they distribute them to different locations for their product to be sold or used. Then, is there any track record, or is there any connection between these companies that produce this plastic to the end user and even to the point of collection? Because if these industries are not really held to accountability on how these things are being distributed and how they are used and the danger they impose to the environment, I think they will not sit tight in bringing other solutions, or they won't be able to come up with solutions that will reduce the production of plastic. So my question is there any way government is actually liaising with the manufacturing companies to bring them accountable to this menace that we're having in the environment, because they are the primary causes of this pollution that we're having. Thank you very much.
Sunday, thank you very much. So like I said when I started the presentation, the plastic issue, it's a global issue. So as plastics are being produced in Nigeria, in Lagos, they are being produced all over the world. But we have some regions now, some countries, especially developing countries that have effective policies and law regarding most of the control and the regulation of most of these things, the industry, the distribution, and the rest. And like I also mentioned in the presentation, that the national plastic waste policy is still in progress. It has been drafted, but it's still under review. And what does that mean? This policy will address all of these issues, from production to even the consumers. And then it would tackle some of the issues like the EPRs that we talked about, EPR, the extended producer responsibility, recycling, and the rest. It's still in progress. That's for the whole of Nigeria. It's a national policy, and if these laws are not enacted and the policies are not in place, though the government at different levels are engaging with manufacturers in their states, but the policy would definitely help to drive this change, and it would be a good tool for the monitoring and enforcement of all of these laws. So that is what I think would really help us to address all of this issue. We are eagerly awaiting the ratification of the National Plastic Policy, whereby we can now have a tool, a policy tool, a regulatory tool to do a lot of this reform with all these components. So thank you. So thank you very much. Oh, do we still have other questions or comments or even contribution from participants? Do we still have contribution? Okay, so this is to react to the message on the slides. I am sure that the slide will be made available. Okay, so let me go to the project partners in the absence of further contributions or questions. So I want to say that this workshop is put together by the Green Vet African Project, which is co-funded by the European Union. Please, can I have the slide on the partners? Can you please project the slide on the different partners?
Yeah, I can help here, Elizabeth. The partners of Green Vet Africa are partners from Europe and from Africa. From Nigeria, we have Loma, and you heard, and we have to thank Elizabeth for these 2 hours, very interesting workshop. But we also have a vocational training school, which is IIT in Lagos. Then in Ghana, we have 2 partners, a vocational training school, Presbyterian school in Kumasi. And we have Wizi Hub, which is a digital innovation hub, again, Kumasi area. Then from the European side, we have Association Mundus, which is a not-for-profit organization specialized in students' mobility, among many other things. And we have KNOS FAP, which is a Salesian organization working with vulnerable groups, vocational trainings, and development projects. The project is coordinated by ARIA, which I represent. I'm Margherita Prestini, Marketing Director. ARIA is an SME based in Udine, northeast of Italy. Erasmus, the Green Vet Africa project that you heard mentioned, you saw the brand across all the slides that Elizabeth presented, is a project co-funded by the European Commission within the program of Erasmus Plus vocational training program, which in the last few years opened opportunity for collaboration for the establishment of vocational training programs or enforcement of vocational training systems in emerging countries. So here, as you've seen with this project, we are working on Ghana and Nigeria, developing the first green waste management vocational training program in West Africa. There are several other projects ongoing in Nigeria, but also in other African countries. The same program is also active in other regions worldwide, including Latin America and Southeast Asia and Middle East. I would like to thank all the participants and once again thank the European Commission for funding our project and giving us the opportunity to organize awareness and knowledge sharing session like this one. And a special thank, of course, to Elizabeth, who has been in charge of organizing this event in the framework of the European Green Week. Thank you, everybody. I will stop the recording now And I wish you a good day. The presentation will be made available on the project website, which is www.greenvetafrica.eu. Thank you, everybody.